So guys, today is Wednesday the 6th. I always have to look at my little notepad to try to figure out what's what. We are going to be starting a unit today on cells and skin, which are the building blocks of all living things. I'll start with a silly little story about my son Graham. When he was little, he was trying to tell me that he had goosebumps, and he couldn't remember what bird, so he says, "Hey, I got duck bumps, Mom." Bless his heart. Anyway, I'm going to start with a little biblical introduction about how God knows us inside and out and makes us one building block, one cell at a time. God knows every small cell in us even before we are born. He knows whether we will be short or tall. He knows the colors of our eyes and of our hair, which reminds me of my favorite psalm, which is Psalm 139, about how he knew every day we were going to have before we ever even had one of them. And that he knew us while we were in our mommy's tummy. We had never lived a day, but he knows all kinds of things about us because he made us. It's awesome. God knew about John the Baptist long before he was born. In the Old Testament, the Bible told of a man who would come before Christ to prepare the people. The angel Gabriel told Zechariah that his son would be the messenger. He would be great in the sight of the Lord, and his name should be John. Zechariah did not believe at first. He and his wife Elizabeth were too old to have children. Because Zechariah did not believe that God could perform the miracle of giving him a son, Gabriel, which that's my son Gabriel that just went by, told Zechariah that he would be unable to talk until the miracle was done. And after Elizabeth gave birth to the baby, everyone wanted to know what his name would be. And Zechariah wrote that the baby's name would be John, and he was again able to speak and to praise God. Okay, guys, so we're going to be talking, or you're going to be reading today a little bit about microscopes, which are tools that scientists use to look at things in a magnified sense. The inventors of the microscope were Hans Janssen and his son Zacharias, and they invented what's called the compound microscope. They were lens makers, and actually Hans was the lens maker, and then his son finished his work for him after he passed away in the 1500s. And then there was another scientist in 1670. This guy's name was Anton van Leeuwenhoek. And he used a simple microscope to study tiny creatures that were swimming in water. He called those tiny creatures animalcules. So before that time, people wondered what animals and plants and people were made of, but they just didn't have the means to know what it was. Because when you look at something with your naked eye, you can look at any one object. For example, how about we got a little antler action here. If I just look at this, it looks like, well, okay, I can see some details about it. It's got bumps, it's hard, it's whatnot. But if I put this under a microscope, it's a whole new ball game what it's going to show me, because it would show me that it's made up of cells. And that's what these early scientists discovered, that when they got to looking at things under a microscope, they could tell a lot more about things. Robert Hooke, that you guys are going to be reading about today, discovered that there was something that looked like tiny little boxes, and come to find out it was cells that he was looking at. He looked at a piece of cork under a microscope and said, he wrote down all his observations, which any good scientist does. I call you guys junior scientists a lot in the classroom. I think you're an observant group. And scientists need to write everything down so they can go back and refer to it with discoveries that they make, and just being detail oriented with their reports about experiments that they may do or new discoveries that they have. So that's it for today. Enjoy your reading. You've just got a couple short pages.